The Signs Before the End, Part 3.
The Israeli-Palestinian conflict is a deep-rooted and long-standing dispute with complex historical, religious, and political aspects that have contributed to the current situation. Here are some biblical references that are misinterpreted by ignorant and evil men, which they use to justify their evil actions and to start wars against countries around them. The prophecy in Ezekiel, chapters 38 and 39, describes a future invasion of Israel by a coalition of northern nations, led by a figure called Gog from the land of Magog. Ezekiel and Revelation mention Gog and Magog because they represent evil forces or nations that oppose God and His people. But it is when Christ is manifested that it is known who is the enemy of God and of the man of God's people. Christ Lisbeth says to us that Gog is a figure of an evil leader or wicked prince, in other words, Satan, the prince of darkness, and Magog is the empty and disorderly land he comes from. Many scholars believe this prophecy refers to end-time events and indicates a significant conflict involving Israel. They say this invasion would occur when Israel was living in safety, and that God promises to intervene and destroy the invading armies, showing His power and holiness to the nations. However, this verse has nothing to do with something physical or with the country of Israel, but is spiritual and refers to God's true people who are formed by Christ herself to be faithful to her and in whom God fulfills His promises because they have despised the darkness of deceitful desires and evil and perverse thoughts, just as God abhors them. God is spirit, and it is with the spirit of His mouth, His word, that God promises to intervene and destroy the invading armies, which is everything that represents the slavery and gravity of evil. The principalities, powers, rulers of the darkness of this century, which are not of flesh and blood, but spiritual hosts of evil in the celestial regions, which is in the mind, since that is the dwelling of all the lies that evil and perverse men instilled in people. Therefore, this great event of God's intervention for His people, Israel, to destroy the invading armies, is already being fulfilled by Christ Lisbeth in the minds of her faithful people. But the ignorance of earthly men is so great that even Texas Senator Ted Cruz has declared that he supports Israel because of the biblical passage of Genesis 12:3, saying that in Sunday school he was taught that those who bless Israel will be blessed, and those who curse Israel will be cursed, and that he wants to be on the side of the blessing. He is referring to the earthly Israel, but he does not accept the true Israel who is heavenly. So, even if he says he wants to be on the side of the blessing, he will never be able to because without Christ Lisbeth, man can do nothing to please God. Chapters 12 and 14 of Zechariah describe the gathering of all nations against Jerusalem and a time of intense conflict, and that God will gather all the nations against Jerusalem for battle. However, the Lord will then go out and fight against those nations, showing His power and saving His people. This makes no sense when viewed in a physical context, and it is clear that the lying pen of the scribes changed the truth for a big lie. Because God, being a God of justice and eternal peace, would never do something unjust and cruel like sending the nations against Jerusalem. These men think they are so intelligent because they have studied or read many history books, or even because they know the Bible by heart, but in reality they are ignorant. Because they don't know how to interpret the times in which we live and be able to recognize Christ among the people, nor are they capable of discerning what is written in the Bible to apply the spiritual to the spiritual of God. Amen. To be continued.